Welcome to Facts, the podcast where multi-generational men come together to bridge the gap. This week we have a special show for you. We have a millennial and we have a Gen X, and we are going to discuss the importance of being involved in your local politics, your local government, understanding how it works and what you can do to be a part of it and bring some change to your life. So I will start with our senior statesperson. You get your name?
My name is Eric France.
Okay, how old are you?
Oh, we're going there, huh? I'm 58 years old.
You got to establish the Gen X. Okay.
Kevin Fallon.
How old are you?
43.
Okay. So politics, local politics. Who wants to start? What's the importance? Why should people care about their local politicians, from an alderman, mayor, congressperson, state rep?
We'll stop right there. All politics are local.
Okay.
So you got to define local politics.
Okay. Let's go over how local politics affects the average person.
Well, every situation that's legislated, whether it's at the national level and you're dealing with a president, or if it's at the level of a parking ticket, deals with the people in the community at home. Everything that moves affects you one way or the other. So all politics are local. That's why you can't afford not to be involved.
Okay. Kevin, what's been your experience with local politics?
Well, as coming from, for the most part, the background I come from, I don't know, it's almost like I feel almost like a lack of representation or any sort of representation of my demographic, so to speak.
Okay.
Those of who've worked a few years. You're not minimum wage, but you're not quite wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of right there in the middle. It's
the middle class, the shrinking middle class.
We seem to be the bigger burden bearers for all of this.
And I agree with you. That's been my experience as well. What have you witnessed or been a part of where people were trying to organize and have some kind of effect to make the local politician do what you want them to do or what you need them to do?
None. Honestly, I haven't seen it. Not from but then again, like I said, it's from my background though. I come up from from the hood for the most part, to put it plain simply.
So the people who need it the most are kind of doing the least.
Most, unfortunately, we're the most disorganized. We're the most,
right.
So typically they blindly follow one. They blindly go to the left. For the most part. And there's some, like I said, for the extreme poor, there seems to be.
Right.
Some minimal benefit.
They're the ones who can afford to be organized.
But for those of like for me, for instance, like I said, and it's, I guess coming, I've worked since I was 15. Really since I was 9, but legitimate job since I was 15 for the most part. Like I said, there's just not a whole lot of benefit to like I said, we tend to be the burden bearers of whatever.
So the balance is you haven't seen a lot of the benefit, but at the same time, that group that needs it the most is the most unorganized. So it's kind of, the politicians kind of really don't have to answer to you because you're not really doing anything.
Exactly.
Eric, I'm gonna ask you the same question. What experience or involvement have you had with any kind of politics?
I've had quite a bit of experience over the years. I'm one of those old heads that probably the first political campaign that I worked on was getting Harold Washington elected.
84,
coming straight
85?
out of high school.
Yeah.
83, we sent Harold
to
become mayor first time. And it kind of took off from there. But to a bigger extent, my father was very much involved in the city of Chicago and its politics over the years and its government over time. He employed a lot of people. He did a lot of things for a lot of people. He ran a lot of organizations within the city, everything from CHA to DHS to City Hall at one time or another.
Okay.
That having been said, that's a unique perspective. I've seen it from the inside out, and I've seen what some of the challenges are.
Okay.
But what I also know is those who scream the loudest usually get the most.
Squeaky
That's
wheel.
just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times you can't afford to not be involved at some level. If you don't have an agenda, then you don't have anything to push or to be heard. And when you're screaming, somebody's listening. It's a question of what are they going to do about it?
Yeah. How
And
are you
who are you
screaming?
holding
Who are you
accountable?
screaming to? And yeah.
Because
So-
most quote unquote politicians want to stay there and keep doing what they're doing and collect that check and keep returning to office, whether they want to do good or they're in it for the money. Whichever it is, they've got to answer to those people. If you're not screaming and you're not showing up, then they're not going to show up for you.
Okay. So this is going to be an interesting dynamic. So clearly you guys have experienced the polar opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to this. So this, so you're representing kind of both sides of the spectrum here. So, well, since you've been involved, I'll start with you, Eric. What is one of the most important things, and I might be asking an obvious question, I would assume as people get organized, but what's one of the most obvious, what is the number one thing people need to do to get started, to impact their own community?
To impact their own community, talk to each other. Because you will find that your needs are probably your next door neighbor's needs. And you probably got more support than what you do, than what you think you do on an issue. But the problem is we don't talk to each other, especially in the Black community.
Right.
We talk about everything that don't make sense, but nothing that we need.
Now, let me ask you, come from the other side. Everybody, I always found it amazing when I did my seminars in certain areas, you all live in the same area, right? Low income area, but everybody wanted to mind their own business and don't, stay out of my business. I don't care about yours. And it's like, but we have all the same issues, but everybody was kind of separated. How difficult do you see that happening? Everybody just come together and expose what my issue is and what I would like to see in my community.
Yeah. He actually hit the nail on the head with his comment. Unfortunately, we come together for just about everything that is non-productive. So,
but let me ask you: when something happens, if a service gets cut,
I mean, you get you'll get a reaction or immediate outrage depending on how noticeable it is. You know what I mean? But
a serious cut, if they cut food stamps, if they
cut something down. But
when the people get together, are they saying we need to do something about it, or are they just complaining to be complaining?
Complaining
To be complaining.
Complaining typically. So, for the most part, now again, like I said, we come from where I come from is kind of not where I'm at now. But so where I'm at now, me and my neighbors talk about certain things,
right.
On the block.
But you're middle class now, right?
Yeah, well, kind of.
Upper middle class. Yeah, you doing pretty good.
But yeah, I can't recall. I mean, they would try to organize certain things. Like I grew up in the projects. They would have something called the LAC,
mm-hmm.
and
local advisory councils.
Yeah, and they would
and who would people show up for that?
I mean, you had honestly, because of life, I would say I guess the best general way to put it, you got limited involvement. You know what I mean? You got, again, this is the hood. So you got, if you're, talking about, like I said, I grew up in the projects. We had a building, you probably a couple hundred adults, or leaseholders, so to speak. You got probably a third of them on drugs. You got.
So the people who want to do well and the people who want to, make some moves happen, because it doesn't take everybody, right? It takes some leadership and people will follow along. The people who wanted to actually do well, were they few and far between, and what results did they have?
Well, that's what I was trying to lead up to. In my opinion, and like I said, it's strictly just my opinion, you probably looking at the most 15%, probably realistically around between 8 and 10% of the people within those couple hundred leaseholders that are in the right state of mind, regardless if it was due to some life issues or just being too caught up in where they're going to get their next meal or pay their next bill from, or substance abuse and stuff like that. You're probably looking at, like I said, 8 to 10% realistically that
wanted to do some good.
Yeah, focused enough to where they can put forth some effort and actually show up to participate.
Okay, so let me ask you, coming from the inside, is 10% enough to get something going?
10% doesn't hurt. I mean, because a lot of places you got no percent.
Right.
10% doesn't hurt. Ultimately, it's like when you look at voter turnout.
Right.
Voter turnout, most times we lucky in Chicago if we get 20% turnout.
Yeah.
They figure that's a good year.
Yeah.
Or if you got half of that who's getting involved from a community level, that already shows you what's going on. It's got to start at that level and be risen. I mean, why wouldn't you want 100% participation?
Yeah.
We'd settle for 75 or 50 even.
But have you seen a scenario where 10% was enough to get the crowd moving and people get on board? I guess what I'm asking, can 10% produce any kind of result that would make more people jump on?
Absolutely. I mean, most recently, when we talk about millennials and everything else, look at Black Lives Matter. Most of us were at home watching it on TV.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'd say that was less than 10% that actually showed up, marched, did what they did, and they did get some effects out of it.
Yeah.
Same thing if you take it even further back, when we talk about Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement, the rights and the right to vote and what we got out of that. That was probably 10% or less of the real people who showed up consistently and went on the front lines. So 10% isn't a bad place to start, but ideally from a society, things would be a lot faster if we stepped up a lot quicker.
Well, do you think it's a lack of education about how much power you actually have by stepping up?
I think some of it is a lack of faith because of what they've seen in the past and how people have been let down in the past. So a lot of people are voluntarily abstaining from doing anything and don't want to be bothered. Yeah. That's what I think. And it's how do you change that mindset? And the way you change that mindset is you have to come to the table with an agenda.
Stand for something, bring it to the table, find some people who agree with you.
I was told a long time ago, the way that we show up in particular is we don't ever come out for anything.
We just talk.
What is the last cause that we came out for? We always against something or something's been taken away from us and we're trying to save it. The point is you got to show up before you get to that point.
Is the last thing we fought for collectively, was that civil rights?
The last thing that we fought for collectively was Kamala Harris. And didn't half of us show up then?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that we all went for and actually showed up in numbers to support the bus boycott, the March on Washington.
Well, I mean, I'll go again. It'd be more political than that. And that's part of the problem. We showed up for Barack Obama.
Yeah, I think that was the last thing probably.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I'd say we showed up for Million Man March.
Yes, I was there. And that was...
Prior to that, you're going back to the March on Washington.
Wow, so we got 60s, 90s, and then, was it 2008?
Yeah.
Those are the real big shows. And now, most recently, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
But you're not talking about half of the population, let alone half of the African-American population, showing up to do anything.
Okay. Well, what is it? Roughly 40 million African-Americans. If you had 10%, that's 4 million? That's a good number.
Well, let me put it to you like this. Let's narrow our focus, saying we're sitting in Chicago today. How many blacks are in the city of Chicago?
I do not have that number.
I don't either.
And that's where we start being weak.
Not knowing our numbers.
Not knowing what your real strength is, because you don't even know what your numbers are.
Oh, so we could have a situation where 100,000 people show up and we go, wow, why did only 100,000 people show up, but not even understand what percentage, that could have been a decent percentage. But 100,000 people moving in one direction is still 100,000 people moving in a
That's
direction,
a good
right?
thing on any day.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you go to McDonald's, it's 100,000 people in line. You ain't standing in line.
Well, we sure do get a lot of marches that have a groundswell of people, but what does that really translate into?
Well, I'll say it to you like this: how many people going to be at the Bud Billiken Day Parade this year?
A lot.
And
So,
that's what I'm
a lot.
saying. We need to be having that parade every day.
Yeah.
The 2023 census, I believe, or whatever this 2023 poll was, showed 769,000 blacks living in Chicago.
Chicago alone or Chicago,
Just Chicago.
Metro, including the suburbs? Okay, a quick search.
So we are.
Are you pulling up stats on facts? Look at you.
Yeah,
Look at you.
unfortunately,
I love it. I love it.
Facts for the stats.
Hey, man. Hey, that's why this wants to keep this accurate.
But this is my point. And what I can tell you from that number is the black population in the city limits has shrunk.
Yes.
And part of it came
Oh, without a doubt.
Yep.
And part of it came with the tearing down of public housing.
Yep.
And they've been scattered to all kind of sites,
Mhm.
most of which are not in the city.
Let me
It's a
ask you
good- a
something
good amount in the city,
on
but-
that note. They're scattered now, right? Do you think you grew up in that community? Do you think that community was stronger in the PJs than it is scattered all around?
Depending on the perspective I'm speaking from. So, of course, being in it at the time, yeah, you definitely had a stronger sense of community for the most part.
Amidst all the chaos, there was
there
still
was a stronger sense of community. Oh, but on that same note, for maturity's sake, it was the sense of community was so strong that you could live and die in that community without even acknowledging the outside world. So
okay.
there was a good thing and a bad thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So unfortunately, you had so many people that just lived within those with the confines that they never got out to really see what the world had to offer, really the city, let alone the world. You know what I mean? So it's
But you know what? That wasn't confined to the PJs because we knew people. I think what did Common have that one lyric? Asked one of his boys how felt traveling the world sound. Found it hard to imagine he never been past downtown. There were Southside people who never went past downtown. There were Westside people who never went past downtown. So I mean that to me that's not a PJ mentality.
But I'll take it a step further. I'll give you the worldly mentality. The reality is that the average person on Earth will never go more than 100 miles from the spot that they were born.
That hits home for me because my mother, but she traveled. She got around. She took us to New York and back. But
how many people you know with a passport?
Right. Well, now I don't consider them.
How many people you grew up with have a passport?
But how many I grew up with? Yeah, that's a whole different number. But I said that to say though, my mother was born and kind of died within 10 miles of, which is I felt kind of.
Well, let me ask you this: growing up where you came from, when politics were discussed to the point that he made a moment ago, was anybody talking about, man, we should at least do something, or was it always just complaining about what you had in front of you?
I like I said, I'm kind of late bloomer to the whole situation. So honestly, back then, because like it was more hood politics, gang politics, stuff like that when I was younger. So it didn't resonate. Honestly, it was like that was the outside world.
So people were so disenfranchised.
Our hood was so regardless, everybody out there was opposition for the most part.
So people were so disenfranchised from the system, they just completely we're not even going to try.
Well, the thing is, when I speak to our hood had its like own ecosystem, so to speak. You know what I mean? So like, don't get me wrong, what happened outside of that affected that ecosystem, but it still had its own. You want thriving so
they
hard
only want to
where
control
you really didn't have to.
They only want to control their part,
right?
So, was it a lack of understanding of you can't affect that if you got organized, but no one really understood. It's like, why try?
Right.
You're so defeated. Why try?
So I'm gonna bring up a scenario real quick, and so I had a lot of family members We touched on this last episode for the most part, but I had a lot of family members grew up, that was in the streets, and at one particular time, like I said, I thought going to jail was being a part of manhood for the most part. But so I had uncles, my father, brother, all these people, at some point in their life will end up going to jail for a little bit of time. Long story short, the gang that pretty much ran our neighborhood, the leader of it, well-known guy, but I don't want to name drop or because
we ain't gonna drop that.
But they had a political thing going on called 21st Century Vote. Have you ever heard of that?
I'm very familiar.
Okay.
So where they tried to affect what was going on the outside as well as what's going on the inside. So now, mind you, because now we're one neighborhood of amongst 10, 20 neighborhoods in Chicago that this was passed down from, because this guy was in jail. So this was passed down from the penitentiary to the streets of Chicago.
Okay.
And this is on the conspiracy theory side of things. But what subsequently ended up happening after they tried to affect the politics of Chicago was that guy was hit with a federal case and given a couple hundred more years in jail.
But that's not conspiracy. That's what actually happened.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if it was the conspiracy part of it. We don't know how closely it was related.
No,
but
it kind of happened all at the same
from
time.
our perspective, it looked like
Right.
was this the retaliation for him trying to get into politics or affect politics in Chicago?
Do something for his community.
Or was this?
All right, well, let's hear from somebody that's versed on the other side. What do you remember about that?
I remember a lot about that organization, and that gets us right back on focus to we talk about having an agenda and organizing your people and what kind of effect it can have. Effect is effect, whether it's positive or negative.
Okay.
The idea is, where do you end up and how do you control it? I think they lost control of the situation because of the way they were moving and what they were bringing.
So they weren't organized when they got started?
No, I think they were very organized. They were an organization.
Okay.
It's just that, let's look at it from the jail perspective. Who's running the jail? Is it the inmates?
At that particular time, it was, from what I understand.
Is it the inmates?
Ultimately?
Well, on paper, no. It's supposed to be the warden.
That's what I'm saying. But so when the inmates take over the jail, what happens?
It's not, they're going to shut that
down. We call in
down.
for the reinforcements. We got to regroup.
Right.
So are you saying they were trying to move like they were in control and they were never really in control, so they were doing from the start?
So that they could take control of their situation. Realistically, it's always a numbers game, no matter what you look at. When we look at public housing, when the high-rise projects in Chicago still existed, the average building had how many people in it?
Like I said, it could be a couple hundred leaseholders. That's just
leaseholders. No, that's the leaseholder. I'm talking about
let alone their families.
People
You know what I mean? So
you had anywhere between 1,500 and 3,000 people in every given building.
Right.
So if you went through Cabrini and you counted the number of buildings, I think there was about 10 or 15 buildings.
Let's ask an expert.
Correctly.
How many buildings were Cabrini?
I've never actually counted each and every.
I used to check to see if the elevators were working.
Right.
It was about 10 or 15 buildings.
Okay.
Including the senior buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that kind of population, the senior buildings
plus the row houses,
and that's what I'm saying. And you add the row houses in. That's quite an influence.
Yeah.
Just
and that's just that neighborhood, right? That's just that neighborhood. Mind you got Henry Horner.
Yeah, Ickes,
you got the Robert Taylor, you got the Ickes, you
Wells,
got all these different housing projects across the city.
And I'm saying, and if
that was a pretty good amount of political influence
and
to
if
be
you
well
just do that alone.
Wow. Yeah, that
you secure that voting block.
That'd swing anything.
Now you got people's attention. But what's your agenda?
Yeah, attention to do what? Yeah, where you trying to go?
Like I said, I was young at the time. I don't know what the overall agenda was.
What was the number one complaint? Well, from what you remember.
No, I'm talking about from that whole the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
No. I know. I'm
Because
kind
I
of
was young at the time.
Right.
So.
right. I'm kind of switching
you were
gears,
younger.
but on point. What was the number one thing from your perspective that should have been the number one thing that everybody that lived in that same situation should have been pushing for? Yeah, I'm putting it all on you. You got to represent all 3,000 people from the Greens.
Oh man.
Or give me the top
It's
two or
hard
three.
to say.
Top two or
But
three
I
issues.
would say as a man coming up, it'd have been because I've never really chose that path. So my biggest struggle was finding employment for the most part. So
and I'm sure that's
one
fair.
opportunity.
that's
what would have been my biggest. You know what I mean?
That's fair. So we'd say job opportunities and training.
So let me ask you: were there more people? And see, now let's bust open the stereotype. Were there more people frustrated because they couldn't get a job, or were there more people just chilling and taking the government assistance?
I mean,
Your experience.
like I said, the perspective then, honestly, I call myself somewhat of a go-getter, and
Yeah, but I mean, with a
and
lot of guys like
optimist
you
for the most part.
that wanted to get some
So
more.
I took what was called the hard route.
Right.
So I sold newspapers. I tried to do any. Well, okay, so honestly, what happened was me and my brother are kind of competitive growing up, and since he chose that lifestyle, which was was kind of
the street. lifestyle.
for
Okay.
the most part, I was like, okay, well, let me choose this path. Feel like it'll be a little harder, not as rewarding immediately anyway, but
Right.
let me go
But you don't have
about
to
it
look
this
over your
way.
shoulder.
So that was, like I said, I chose what was considered to be, I guess, the hard route.
But were there a lot of guys like you?
No, I
It
was
wasn't.
definitely the minority
Okay.
by a long shot.
Okay.
It's much easier to go with the flow, so to speak. You know what I mean? With
Yeah.
what
But
was,
slang and
especially
dope is
back
work.
then.
Slang and dope is work.
Back then, yeah.
Because I bet you had a whole other group that didn't want to do anything
It
but just
is.
sit around.
It is now. Yeah, I feel like there was some. Like honestly, I feel like that came a couple generations later, where
What, the real lazy ones?
with the internet age coming about and
right.
video games getting more popular. We definitely was dealing with that along. I was part of the group of kids for the most part. I was born in 81, so I feel like 81 to just about 85, we were still outside every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
so like coming from that age group, yeah, you had to, like I said, I feel like the easy choice was to, get a sack from one of the guys in the hallway and make you some quick money.
Say
You know
from
what I mean?
me some work and let me go ahead and flip it
that
over.
was the
right.
easy way to and it was it was easier simply because it was right there in front of you. Not only that, it gave you a sense of belonging. It made you popular with the ladies that
Right.
that was around.
Get your hood cred.
Right.
You
could all of us are poor for the most part. So it gave you the opportunity to get you some fresh clothes and put you in position, and for the most part, like I said, what we consider jumping off the porch and into that, it happens on average back then at about the age of 13, coming out of 8th grade, going to high school, more or less.
Wanting to do something for the family and do something. But let me ask, from the inside, hindsight being 2020, did the group of people who were trying to do something, did they really have their finger on the pulse of what was necessary and was trying to impact some change and organize people?
Some did and some didn't. Just like politicians. I mean, you got a block of people who are in it to step up to the next level and use that as their way out.
Stepping stone.
And you got a group of people who are there because they're committed to the people, no matter what level or what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people's candidate. They're there to serve the people and fill what the needs are of the community. It's about what your agenda is. I keep going back to what is it that you're really asking for, and who are you really holding accountable for what?
From the community to the individual politician trying to help the community.
Absolutely.
But the way the community has to put the pressure on the elected official for what they want, but they got to have an agenda.
Well, let's start with it. How many career politicians do we know? A lot.
Majority.
There are people that have been in seats like they got a job coming out of a 4-year institution, whether it be jail or college or whatever, or high school or whatever. And they've been in that job ever since. And they just ride it out as long as they can until they get to the bonus year where they can get that retirement and pull down Social Security and do whatever they want. And some of them want to stay till they die. We really seeing that in D.C. now, watching people fall asleep in Congress, and fall downstairs, and be there and really not understand the questions getting asked.
Yeah, have no idea.
They should have been gone 20 years ago.
Yep.
But we're not holding them accountable. We keep sending them back, whether it's because we voting for them or because we're not voting at all.
Well, not voting
and we're
for
not
them.
saying nothing.
Yeah.
So the question is, and I'm repeating myself, I know it, what is your real agenda? It starts with you and then the group of people that you organize who are like-minded with you. So if you can come up with what the real agenda is, I mean, there was a time when we used to do something called the State of Black America every year.
Mm-hmm.
The reality was, before Tavis Smiley started doing the State of Black America, everybody was all over the place. He brought the leaders together and the community people together and really wrote down what the agenda was and got it organized so we could fight for it.
Okay.
And that became an annual thing. I don't even see that anymore.
Yeah. I feel like, and I hate to start things with I feel like, but it seems as if the disconnect has grown greater with the wealth gap, so to speak, with the everyday common man, I suppose, and those in government, honestly. And I'm gonna go to the far side now. It seems as if in this day and age, well, it's yet to be determined, honestly. I feel like with the newest administration and whatnot, but with the last administration, it was more corporate agenda being pushed more than common man needs and whatnot.
When you say the last administration, we're talking about federal government?
Yeah.
The president. Okay.
On down for the most part. I feel like the same thing. I feel like, again, but because we talking about the Democratic administration, and then we live in a Democratic state, being Illinois, I feel like it's kind of similar here. You know what I mean? With
But is there a unified, to the point that he keeps bringing up, which strength in numbers, is there a unified message for anybody to get behind? And forget just our community, across the board.
Well, basically what I'm trying to say is it's gotten so hard and challenging for us to just make it with the inflation the way it is and all that. Like
people just feel too defeated.
I see where you're going.
Yeah, it's just too hard to if you're working 12 hours a day just to make ends meet,
just to live,
you ain't got time to go to and fight. I mean, I know
your ancestors would be mad at you for that.
I mean, yeah, probably.
Because when you look at what they went through,
they walked to work both ways,
and walked both ways
time to
as part of the movement, and being at work was part of the movement. Dealing with the bull was part of the movement. Organizing while they were on the job, if they were Pullman porters, even just looking for better conditions. So your ancestors would be mad at you saying we ain't got time.
I know.
What it means
I think he's
we
taking
done
it
got
out of
soft
context
and disconnected because there's a lot of stuff that was there that we didn't have to fight for. So we came in with a whole lot being done. My father tells a story when he came to Chicago. He came from being a kid in St. Louis. He was put on a train at Union Station in St. Louis, got off at 63rd in Dorchester to go to a George Williams College at the time, which was not far from there. He had $7 in his pocket. He didn't know if he even had enough money to get there, but he had enough gumption to push through to make sure he got there. And when they got there, they were looking at him like, what the hell are you doing here?
Right.
He was sent there to train to be a YMCA secretary. Strange as hell, but that's what they did at the time. So he was there, completed the program, was supposed to be ready to go to work when it was done with. But guess what happened at the end of him matriculating and doing everything he did right with his $7? There weren't any positions at any black Ys, so he couldn't get a job. So what does that mean? There's a story in there?
Right. What are you going to do now? What are you prepared to do?
You don't have a choice but to be active in your search and whatever. And he went on from that moment and did great things.
Well, the funny thing is, it seems like when you have, struggle drives the motivation.
That's what I'm saying.
You look at
Adversity builds character.
Yeah, not just that. When we were illegal or segregated, we had drive to get our things. I look at the Hispanic community being outsiders and targeted. They have drive to do it. It feels like after 64, when it's like, okay, the struggle is over. It's like, no, the struggle was never over. But I know being Gen X, we were kind of raised with, okay, well, now you can do anything. You don't have to struggle like we struggled. And I think that was a mistake by our parents, and not all, but the majority of the community felt like, okay, we're citizens now. We're a part of this thing. And I think if we look back over the last 50, 60 years to 64, we can look at that going, we took our foot off the gas where we should have leaned in harder.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we look for a lot of help where we don't need help. We need to just get up our asses and do something. Or we waiting for it to show up all the time. And that's our fault. We need to get together and organize people, even if it's asking this brother, hey, man, I don't know what to do. You know what I do in a situation like this? We're not even doing that. We're sitting waiting for the answer to fall off the sky.
Right.
And then we'll get destroyed by it when it does, because it smacks you in the head and you ready and don't know what to do with it.
Does it feel like, and this is just speaking about our community, we watched how the white community got so many handouts from the government. Then after 64, we're like, cool. Now we're going to get everything that we believed they were getting. So now we can sit back on our laurels and just let it all be That's what we fought for, right? To get the handouts. Give me a job, give me training.
I tend to not want to or like to compare what happens in the black experience and the white experiences, because they're never going to be the same.
No, absolutely.
There ain't no such thing as equality.
I'm saying we jumped on what we thought it was going to be. And what makes me cringe is the fact that 60 years later, no one's pointing out saying, you know what? We could have done some things a little differently, after 64, because we thought it was going to go one way. Clearly, after 60 years, it's not going that way.
I think what people think is that the fight is over, that we overcame.
Exactly.
That's
what I'm saying.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And then they feel like there's always injustice. Well, we ain't never been free.
It's only an injustice if you really thought you were in that position.
You talk about the Voters' Right Act. We still can't legally vote, right?
Mm-hmm. Still on the books.
We keep renewing the ability to vote.
Yep.
It is not in the U.S. Constitution that we can vote forever.
Yep.
So if they decide tomorrow, say, yeah, we're going to buy executive order, we're just going to stop them people from voting.
It just all ends. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say this. Might be a little controversial, but it's a little true. How many Democratic presidents have we had in my lifetime? I don't know. Lost count. How many Republican presidents have we had? Don't know. Don't count. How many people in between? And how many of them fought to make sure that becomes law? Other than John Lewis, I really don't know anybody. And did it die with John Lewis?
That's deep. That's deep.
Because I don't even hear it in the discussion.
Well, and the other thing too, the Republicans have the Project 2025, and my first question is, where's the Democratic version of Project 2025?
You're speaking to what I was saying about the whole Tabitha Smiley thing. We don't do it anymore. We were writing Project 2025 long before Project 2025. Hell, I think that's our idea they stole. We used to come together annually and put our black agenda together, and we would move based on that.
So what happened to it? Do you ever ask yourself what happened to that?
Y'all not going to like my answer.
I want to know.
Barack Obama.
elaborate, please.
You
See,
all
say
thought
this to say because
you thought you overcame when we had a black president.
I completely agree with you. And I'm a to be quite honest with you. And don't get me wrong, I'm not diehard Republican, but I haven't voted Democratic since Barack Obama, simply because of that. But because I feel like,
and how's that work for you?
I mean,
and I mean that.
Tax base wise, it's a little bit better.
Honestly, I mean it honestly because I consider myself.
I feel like it's a lack of representation both ways, but I feel like the Democratic Party kind of they shuck and jive with us like they're gonna do something every time and you know leave us on kind of on empty promises.
So you tried it both sides.
So
I've tried Democrat, I've tried Republican.
Not only with me, I've watched my mom her whole life go blindly
strictly blue.
Yeah, blue every time. And realistically, and from like I say, I'm 43 now. I've been kind of paying attention to this. I was close in with her. So I was about 12 years old till she turned until I got of age to vote. And I just, like I said, only reason why I even jumped on a Barack Obama bandwagon thing just simply because of what it represented. You know what I mean? But beyond that, it still was I feel like a real lack of representation for even, like I said, because at this point I had become like somewhat middle class. You know what I mean? I've been.
Oh, you're middle class. You're middle class. Trust me. Trust me, you're middle class.
I really feel a lack of representation.
I know where you live. You ain't somewhat middle class.
but check it out. To the people who, all right, I tried the blue, didn't see anything I liked. Tried the red, didn't see anything I liked. Now it's like, okay, instead of being loyal to a party, now it's time to organize a movement, because there's one consistent thing you have to say about politics, from the LGBT community to the Jewish community to to the Asian community.
Asian American, yeah.
They're all organized, and to your point, they all have a specific agenda.
And
so
they get it addressed.
Because it's
their
not
numbers
about red or blue.
Exactly, because
It's
they don't have
about
numbers.
Green.
Exactly.
agree.
Asians are what? Less than 5%. Jews are less than 5% of the community. So you have these small groups that are getting all these things, and somehow people haven't figured out, well, you just can't drop a vote off and be done with the process.
But okay, so but it seems like the Democratic Party could, they know they could.
Well, forget the party. Let's get the party out of this.
They feel like when it comes to Black America, they could play with us like that. They could basically
But we don't ask the hard questions, so they can.
So
I mean, being real, we don't ask the hard questions. I mean, if you're interviewing your candidate for a position, what's the first thing you ask them?
What you gonna do for me?
Yeah.
Thank you. And we don't ask.
Yeah, we don't do that.
We don't ask.
So that's what I'm saying. We've tried the two parties. Neither being loyal to a party isn't the answer, right? You drive through Chinatown. You ever seen a political sign sitting out front? But they have a lot of power, but they could care less who's in office. They're not backing anybody. So it's like, okay, what is their formula? What the LGBT community? They're only 6-7% of the country,
if we're lucky, yeah.
And you know the weight they have. Say the wrong thing in media.
Actually, I think we're under-indexing them, because when you deal with that community in particular, with all due respect, there are people who are vocal and there are people who are not about being members of that community.
Yeah,
right.
So that number's a lot larger than what we give it credit for on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, we don't have no choice but to be black.
But they don't have a leader. They don't have marches. They don't have.
They have parades and marches.
They have but not. But when they get stuff accomplished, it wasn't because they marched.
Right.
It was it was simply because, hey, now it's established. What did when Chappelle was talking about his show, he wrote a skit with a certain derogatory term. The network pulled it and said, no, we are not going to allow you to do. So their influence is so great, it begins before it even hits the airways, because it's already baked into the system of what you can and can't say.
Because the things that we don't give them credit for. LGBTQ plus goes beyond what you can see, which is why we always underestimate that lobby.
Right.
So The reason why is he offended somebody who controls something, who probably was that person that he talked about.
Yeah. Well, they said it was just a standard that word or
creates
any
the
word like
standards?
that will never air on this network.
Who creates that standard for that
yeah.
network, and who's running that network? If you get deep enough in it, you're going to find some of it in it. And there's nothing wrong with that. We should, because that's what makes for good TV and wide representation. The problem for blacks as a whole is we were shut out from so many years. Now that we got to the table, we don't have no agenda and don't know what to ask for, even with our own networks.
So can I let me just jump in here with one quick question, if you don't mind me, and that's to both of you. Do you think it's possible to organize as blacks for any particular political agenda, or I mean, you think it's
It's
a
already
possibility?
been proven and done.
Yeah, that's
The question is, why aren't we doing it?
So who you talking about with the Tavis Smiley?
I'm talking
No,
about
the
many
March on
times over the
Washington,
years.
civil rights,
Harold Washington, civil
Selma.
rights
So,
movement.
But when we look at a lot of those, like, okay, so to take the Million Man March for instance, who organized and got that going, Farrakhan, right? If I'm not mistaken.
He was one of the
He's
spearheads.
ostracized for the most part, and when it comes to
not by us.
and he's not by us, but
When
that's the only
we
thing
all
that
that
matters.
matters.
but that's what typically happens, though. And I don't want to, but yeah, that's what typically happens though when you try to organize the black political.
But he's
muscle for the most
ostracized
part.
by the other side. Doesn't matter.
It's not just, but I mean, it tends to come with. You almost got to be almost self-sacrificing if you're going to be that person. Though.
Anybody
That's
who
what-
gets into public life is self-sacrificing by default.
But who's the LGBT leader? Doesn't exist. It just who's the Jewish leader?
I get what you're saying. I
see
get
what I'm
what
saying?
you're saying.
Why do
But-
we have to have a leader and no one else?
That's why we always have a head to our snake that they can cut off. Don't get a head, because if you have melanin in your skin, the same way if you live an alternative lifestyle, you have everything in common. You have everything that you need in common. So if every neighborhood feels the exact same way, just like you were saying about the PJs, if every building felt the same way, going through the same struggle and agreed that it's the same thing, and whenever it came up, this is how we react to it, this is how we're not going to stand for it, it takes care of itself. The problem, if you're always waiting for a leader to come lead it, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's just stop the leader and that'll shut all the rest of you up. It's like, stop waiting for the leader, and getting organized doesn't mean finding a leader.
It's
Getting
very
organized
clear.
means getting organized.
It's very clear. As you said, LGBTQ does not have a leader. They have an agenda. Evangelical Christians do not have a leader. They have an agenda. Black people as a whole,
Right.
we do not have
An agenda.
an agenda.
I got you.
See, that should be a bumper sticker and a T-shirt right there. That should be a hashtag. Agendas over leaders.
And if we start organizing, because I say it before, all politics are local. Whether it's that local school council, making that school better, getting that right principal, getting the right education for our seeds, where we're starting it all and what we're planning, so they can come out and make sure we have the right agenda as they grow through the process, because we don't have that much more time. That's just the fact. The time we got left is just that, the time we got left. They're just getting started.
Yeah.
But if we don't start them with the right foundation, and they're picking up where we left off and what we didn't do and what we didn't teach them and what they don't know, then you're going to continue to stay.
Yeah. If we let the public schools keep teaching the selective history that they teach, and we're not reinforcing everything that we went through. Again, what worked for us? Montgomery bus boycott.
We want kids to be responsible with money, and we don't teach them nothing about money.
That's a whole nother episode.
I mean,
Yeah.
just being real, we don't have an agenda when it even comes to finance or savings or home ownership or things that help to build wealth, things that help to keep wealth.
Generational wealth, legacy.
I mean, do we even know how estate taxes affect the Black community and the passing on of wealth? Do we even tell them how to set up those big, beautiful homes that they're buying in the suburbs right now so that their families can keep them without losing them to taxes or probate or other things when they die? Do they even know to put them in trust?
What's the agenda now? Just chase the bag? And that's ambiguous. Chase the bag. What does that really mean? Chase the bag, chase the bag, chase the bag.
And then the worst half of it is, as you watch the new kids coming up, who, and this pains me very much, and I'm going to look into the camera and say it, why are we teaching people to not own anything?
I actually read an article recently that, and this is the mainstream media, talking about how, well, it's better to rent than to own. It's like they're actually putting this out. It's like
to make rich people richer.
Yeah,
exactly.
In what world?
And I say that as a landlord.
Right. But again, if you're letting the problem is if you let the media educate your children and your community, you're gonna lose every time.
Yeah,
you're
call
gonna
me
lose
a
every
conspiracy
time.
theorist, but there you see articles and commercials like that now, and all of and what coincides with that is you got more corporations into real estate and single family homes and stuff more than ever nowadays.
Oh, yeah, it's a great investment.
So
what's sad about those, which they don't tell you, is who are their biggest tenants? The people that they bought the houses from. We'll buy your house from you. We'll give you cash, and we'll let you stay there.
I didn't know about that.
You getting in financial trouble because you had a little bit too much bottle service. You can't pay your bills. we gonna bail you out. We're gonna give you the stack of cash for your house. But don't worry, you don't even have to move. You can just pay us now.
Wow. People just selling themselves into debt.
Indentured slavery.
Financial slavery.
Exactly.
And that's where it is.
But that's because we don't have an agenda. And one of those things on the agenda, just clearly from statements like that, is wealth building and ownership. People can't succeed at it if they don't understand it and they haven't been taught.
But this all definitely comes back, all of this seems to come back to education.
Well, it comes back to education and disadvantage. A lot of people in our community are the first to buy a home in their family. They don't have an example to follow. They didn't have a house unless they were the last one that survived and got Big Mama's house when she died.
Right.
But they didn't do anything to get it. So what do they really know about keeping it?
Right.
Because they haven't been taught.
Or they refinance it and end up losing it because they should never have taken on that loan in the first place. Or they're selling it just to get a chunk of cash. Because the agenda is chase the bag. If I sell the house, I get the bag. And it's like, yeah, but no one has educated you. It's like, okay, yeah, you get a couple of $100,000. Do you know what to do with it to turn it into an empire?
Do you know the smartest investment that any of us can make right now as entrepreneurs to further our wealth?
Besides real estate?
Not to go buy a house, not to go buy a condo, not to open an Airbnb. Buy a patch of empty land because they ain't making no more.
That's been the statement.
The pathway comes through you.
But you can't get bottle service because you got to pay the taxes on it.
Sacrifice you got to make.
Can we just get rid of bottle service? Just you know.
But I like those little sparklers. That's
right.
my night.
paying $200-$300 for a $50 bottle, but you get the sparklers.
Well,
and you
but
get
that's
the
I mean that you know, in a nutshell though, that's kind of one of the biggest things with us as well. You know, there is no turnover for the black dollar. It goes in our pockets and right into.
But all this is education. Again, we say organize, but no one's gonna organize
within
if they
10
haven't.
minutes or something. I think was the last study.
10
seconds. Yeah.
Within 10 minutes, the money comes in.
It's 10 seconds. You want to know why? On payday, when they make that direct deposit for you and somebody hits that button, what bank is it going to?
Exactly.
It's already
and
gone.
now you have all these prepayment things where your money's spent before you get it. You're not even touching it. But I keep coming back to education because, you know, you're saying organizing and all these things, but you have to be educated to know the power of it. Because I can tell you to go organize the people that you know. The first question is, why? What's your motivation? If you don't know that this is the way to get it done, you know.
Well, let's back into that. Kevin, your generation, okay? What do you and your boys talk about?
Besides bottle service.
Oh man, besides bottle service, I mean, honestly, like the ones that I grew up, those of us who are doing the best, may like I say, own a house, own a building or something in the city somewhere. But
Does your group? I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Does your group kind of rest like saying, "Wow, I'm the first one to buy a house, and I'm the first one to do this, so I've made it"? Or are they hungry, saying,
I believe I see a lot.
I got a taste of that.
Well, because like I said, because we don't focus on wealth building, we get to a certain place and we put a ceiling there ourselves for the most part, and living life.
So it ain't the man that's holding you back.
It is right. Is the man holding you back, or your lack of desire to do more?
It's the lack of agenda.
Yeah, lack of agenda. There's no certain.
Because I'm sticking to the agenda today. If you notice,
you're right. You're absolutely right. Though,
what do you
if there was an agenda in place where we had a setup to where, but like, we don't produce any goods or anything like that either. So like it's harder for, like I said, we need a system to where. Well, we need, a system needs to be created to where wealth is kind of.
But I keep going back to education, because if you're
group, so
if you're educated on what will get you there, then there's then the agenda presents itself.
Right.
I'm trying to go downtown. I'm on the south side. All right, so I got to go north.
I
know where I'm going, you know what I'm saying, it puts me on the path.
I'm gonna be the best hip hop Generation X guy there is. What are the two best Jay-Z albums?
Reasonable Doubt, I was one of them.
No. Early on, he hadn't matured yet. Blueprint 1 and 2. The whole point is you got to have an A plan and a B plan. You got to create what your blueprint is. It shouldn't just be an agenda. It ought to be an evolving agenda. This is what I need now. By this next year, I need to be working on these things.
And it has to be fluid enough to make changes in the middle, just in case something happens.
The change is always in play. There shouldn't be no, well, I'm almost there. I'm going to hit the ceiling and I'm done.
Right.
You never done.
Yeah, keep going.
We got to teach desire and blueprint.
Yeah.
Right.
Desire. But I keep coming back to education. You can have desire to do all kind of stuff, but somebody's got to give you a roadmap to get, you got to know what you want. The bag, you want to stop working and just have all this, a check show up in your bank every month. Okay. How do you get there?
But I'm going to bring it back full circle so we get back on point, as if I'm Oprah now, but I'm going to do that. How many of your friends are voting?
I have a lot of now, and this, like early on, not many, but now for the most part, the majority, I don't have a lot of friends, but probably 90-some% of us talk about politics and how we voting and stuff like that.
But do they vote with
an agenda? But are they really showing up?
I mean, that's hard for me to say.
And that's something where about holding us accountable. I mean, we have to that's what I mean about holding people accountable. A, are you even registered to vote? B, are you voting? And C, who are you voting for, with the caveat of why? We need to understand each other and hold people accountable on that basic level first. Are we even pushing our agenda?
That's a good point to your people. When you're saying everybody's just blindly going blue, it's like you're voting blue. Are you voting blue just because that's what you're used to doing? Or are you voting blue because you feel blue? What's the agenda that they have? Especially for us, I personally haven't heard anybody, left, right, up or down, saying, if you are of color, this is what I'm going to do for you. But why make us a promise if we're not asking for it?
We haven't asked for nothing. Well, I don't have to tell you I'm going to do anything for you.
Just pull hot sauce out your purse or play saxophone. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's how easy we are to appease. And to the point that he made a minute ago, well, it's our fault, because how can you complain about what you're not getting if you never ask for anything? Or if you never come together as a group and make a demand to be offended when someone doesn't give it to you?
So there are people out here, especially in our community, who've been in office 15, 30 years and even more. And we've never held them accountable for anything, but we complain about, we don't have a grocery store in our community. We live in a food desert. There's no jobs here. There's no place decent to live here. There's no whatever. And there was a time when there was. Mm-hmm. And we've watched it all go backwards. But yet and still, we keep reelecting the same person back to that office to let them continuously do us.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say it, it's not conscious, but it's unconscious. The fact that you sitting there doing nothing and it's okay with you shouldn't be okay with me.
Right.
So let's bring this home. Kevin, what would you say to somebody that identifies with your background as far as let's try something different? Because clearly what we've been doing does not work.
So with that being said, that's exactly what I've been doing, honestly, for the last probably year or so. At least with my initial circle that I kind of be with on a day-to-day. We've had discussions like this. Now, the thing is, though, we're kind of scattered out. So I live south suburbs. Some of them live in the city. Some of them live in west suburbs. So it's when it come down to like the local mayoral races and whatnot, we kind of got, it's different. But like when it came to the last presidential race, we had these discussions for the most part. And again, like you said, we had some people that were just blindly voting blue because of whatever the reason, because she's the first woman to want. I'm a woman, so I want to, which I'm not knocking it. I did the same thing with Barack Obama when he, I did it, even though I felt it wasn't,
just made you feel good. Made you feel good. Yeah, I mean,
but
it was history making.
And actually, let me ask a question to the point you just made. How important is it for like-minded people to live in the same area? Because I mean, that was another advantage that we had in segregation. We all lived together, so our community was our community, and you see everybody else, the Hispanic community, the Asian community, you know what I'm saying? They all live together. So does that kind of make it easier for them to get organized? As they're all like-minded in one place?
The United States is still segregated.
It is.
Absolutely.
But not as it was, but yeah, it is. It is.
We can cross some lines, but for the most part, we all still live together. We don't talk to each other.
Right.
But we still all live together.
So we got to seek out our like-minded people that live next door so we can
have the conversation that no one wants to have.
What do you want?
In my opinion, I feel like we should go back even further. Like you said, when it was segregation, we were forced to deal with one another. We were forced to create black businesses, and we would support those businesses because that's all we could go to. For the most part, or we wasn't treated right or fairly, taking your money elsewhere.
A big part of that too was the black church was involved and did a lot of that organizing, and was the center making that happen.
Talking about the black church, a whole other episode.
right. And that's where I'm going. For multiple reasons, people have strayed away from those institutions, and we've lost that glue that kept us together.
Haven't come up with something to replace it. There needs to be some central.
And some people strayed away for good reasons. Some of what I don't know. That's like I said. That's a whole other discussion. I feel like because that's a great area.
That's a whole other episode too.
It's don't get me started. But the point I was trying to make though, like I feel like that's the beginning of the organization to be able to get that, to wield that political power, is. Of course, we start with the individual. Most of us as individuals, we've, accomplished at least more than the minimum we need, as far as owning a home. And, some people, I know several colleagues of mine that have small businesses. At this point, we need to start back working together and using each other's services and whatnot to build each other up to for the most part, keep our money within the community a little bit more. And that's going to build a certain amount of
So I've got to touch on this while you say that.
Oh yeah, go right ahead.
Because you went to my favorite thing, money. It's all green. It ain't red or blue.
Yep.
It's always green. When you look at our community in particular, there was a time when Chicago was probably the banking hub for black banks in America. We had as many as 10 or 13 banks.
Is that right? See, I knew of one of them.
Which one did you know?
Seaway.
Okay, Seaway at one time was the largest black bank in America. You had Seaway, you had Drexel, you had Independence, you had Illinois Service Federal, and all of those banks that I just named were within 5 square miles of each other in the community.
South Shore,
Chatton. South Shore was not a black bank. It was run by black people.
But
South Shore Bank did more community lending than any other bank in the city at the time.
Yeah, that's a whole nother kind. We're gonna have to do a show about strictly finance.
But my point to this is, how many black banks are in the community now? And I'm not talking about credit unions. I mean full service bank and trust institutions.
How many black banks are left in the country?
No, I mean just in the city. I ain't gonna do the country.
Oh, Chicago.
I couldn't even tell you. I believe
none.
Seaway is still around.
No, they were bought out.
It's gone.
Private company. Are they still open? I know they're not black owned.
They were bought by the Bank of Texas when they failed from the federal government, and then turned into a credit union or something of that nature.
Yeah,
Wow,
Seaway's been gone. It's been some years.
So it tells you how.
My point is, we're lucky if we have one left in Chicago. That's a full service banking institution.
I think I think it's just the credit union left. One United Credit Union.
One United Credit Union.
Yep, that's the only one.
And that's a credit union.
Credit union,
But
right.
we may have one bank left. So my point is, until we can get control of our money, you can't get control of your future.
Yeah, capitalism is a group effort.
I mean,
Yeah.
whether you're talking
Team
about
sport.
Bank of America, Wells Fargo's, Chase, or whoever, that's where most of our money goes in 10 seconds after we get paid.
Yeah. You're
Immediately.
absolutely right.
Immediately.
Direct
And then
deposit.
it's going everywhere else, but it's not staying in our community. We don't have any bargaining power or buying power without it.
If our money is going into a non-black institution, that means we never had our money to begin with.
And it probably came from them to go to them. Because when we have our black businesses that don't have their money deposited in a black institution, when I'm writing that check, employing you on payday, I'm just moving it from one account to another account within the same institution, probably.
And then when you spend it, so you said leave in 10 seconds or 10 minutes, it's never even
It's
hitting
never
it.
really coming.
Right.
Unless you're getting bottle service at the local lounge, which is probably rented. So it's not even owned, or all the distributors that they're buying from aren't, so the money never really stays.
Because we don't own nothing.
All right. So agenda and organization.
So we need to support our black products. Uncle Nearest.
Uncle Nearest. Thank you so much, Uncle Nearest.
We need to support our institutions, whether it's educational or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
We need to find a way to bring that money back. We need to find a way to build on our own, because what we know statistically, especially with all the job loss that's going on in the country right now, the biggest employer in this country is still small business.
And I guess what would be the incentive to switch? If I'm making tons of money off of a group, what's my incentive to help that group establish? Because if that group establishes itself, I'm losing money.
Profits,
So to the point that he was making, we're waiting for it to fall out of the sky and hand it to it. What is the incentive in a capitalistic society for anyone to help any community do better than what they're doing, especially if I'm making a mint off
So
of it?
I don't claim to have all the answers. I definitely don't. But that's why you have to sit down and have the discussion to come up with what our real agenda is. So now when you're looking at your people in Washington, you really got something to talk to them about and hold them accountable for.
So
Not just
the same
$8
conversation, but it's
eggs.
directed to the people who actually can affect some
Those
change.
people who've been there for 40 years voting your interest, that don't know your interest,
Yeah, and we need to
that
stop.
we don't talk to,
Yeah,
and we don't give any direction. We just say, oh, here we go again.
yeah.
I'm just wasting my time voting for this fool, but I'm going to vote anyway because I always vote for him.
Or
There
they
ain't
don't.
nobody else up here.
Or they don't vote at all. They go in and say, "Okay, president. What are all these other names? I don't even know who these people are."
Or-
You know what I'm saying? That happens so often.
Or the worst thing of all, which happened in this last presidential election, and I'll leave it alone. In the past, undecided meant I'm not sure if I'm going to vote for him or her. I don't know which one I'm going to vote for. The new thing is we're going in here saying I'm undecided on whether I'm going to vote.
I've been there before.
And that's more dangerous than not knowing which one you're going to vote for. Because you've removed yourself from the process and holding anybody accountability at all.
Closing words, Kevin?
I mean, we got to start from somewhere, I suppose. I don't know.
Has
been
this
insightful,
conversation, as brief as it's been, has this conversation given you any insight or a glimpse to doing anything different and seeing a way forward that could actually bring about some positive change?
I mean, yeah, it helped clarify that. I feel like it starts with organization for the most part. We need to organize and
Right. When you're frustrated, do something instead of just being frustrated.
yeah, try to outline an agenda.
So we
Nothing
agree.
else.
All politics is local.
Starts with the people. Of the people, by the people, for the people. That's what they tell us. All right, well, that will do it for this episode. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank Uncle Nearest and our other sponsors. And I hope you got something for this. Please comment. Please give your input. And if we got any of the facts wrong, please feel free to correct us. Until next time, I'm Chris Avent. Take care.